All right, because y'all asked, here's the Traveler Collection Tour. On the left side here, on the top shelf, we've got the Traveler customizable card game, two versions of Imperium, one of which was done by Game Designers Workshop, the other by Avalanche Press. Imperium Third Millennium is a decently different game from the original Imperium, which remains a terrific game. On top of that, we have these impossible to store without crushing the boxes. It's sets of deck plans that FASA did in the 80s. Moving on, we have some various GDW board games, some of which are explicitly linked into Traveler, like this version of Imperium, Fifth Frontier War, Ajanti High Lightning. The other three, Double Star, Blood Tree Rebellion, and Belter, are not explicitly Traveler games, but they fit right in. We move on here to Classic Traveler. Somebody's going to ask, yes, that is in the shrink wrap. Striker here is not in the shrink wrap. That's a baggie I put on it. I'm not sure why that's the only one that's bagged, to be honest. We've got Grip Traveler. This is an early attempt to do a virtual tabletop. Snapshot and Mayday. Those are not my only copies of either of those games. And then we move on to the Little Black Books, of which I have quite a few. A lot of these at the end are either third-party products or issues of the Journal of the Traveler's Aid Society. Speaking of which, Mongoose Publishing has done 2 box sets, and there's another one coming on Kickstarter. Here's Shannon Appleklein's excellent book, The Science Fiction in Traveler, that talks about the science fiction underpinnings of Traveler. We've got This Is Bits. These books are from Bits. I actually bought them from Steve Jackson Games when they had them back in the day. British Isles Traveler Support. They did a bunch of excellent products. All this stuff's available on DriveThruRPG. Here we have, because they don't fit anywhere else, some of the world books from GURPS Traveler. Here are the Far Future Enterprises reprints. I'm missing one of these for the record. Moving down, we've got some Classic Traveler stuff that they did in large format boxes, like standard size boxes, plus larger format books. These include the Alien modules. I still need 2 of those, I think. Here's the other 2 Alien module reprints that Far Future did, a couple of the full-size things that Bits did. Moving into Mega Traveler. At one point, I actually had a 3rd set of Mega Traveler that I gave away. We've got some of the Digest Group stuff here. Moving into Traveler The New Era. I believe I have everything for Traveler The New Era, including the novels and including the t-shirt. Moving thenceforth into Imperium Games Traveler 4th Edition, sometimes called Mark Miller's Traveler. I'll have some more to say about this later. There were serious errata problems, let's put it that way. I am missing a few of these. GURPS Traveler is next. This is all based on the GURPS Traveler 3rd Edition rules, and there's a 4th Edition book, which for some reason is with the GURPS 4th Edition stuff. Nope, I'm mistaken. It's just tucked in the back there. These loose packets here are the deck plans that they did. I believe I have everything for GURPS Traveler. This is D20 Traveler with a couple actually, of the hard copy source books that they did. They did a lot in PDF. This thing's another one I get asked about a lot. This is a Spanish language version of Classic Traveler published by Diseños Orbitales in Spain. It is beautiful. Here is my rather lean collection of Traveler 5th Edition stuff. This is the sort of 5.1 version. This is Traveler 5 in one huge book. This is a slipcase. It's got 3 very handsomely bound volumes in it. And the print-on-demand version of the Traveler 5 Second Survey book. Moving down here, we have Mongoose Traveler 1st Edition, and I don't have tons of this stuff. They released at least 3 or 4 times as much stuff as I have here for Mongoose Traveler 1st Edition. It was just that I wasn't playing a lot of RPGs at the time, so I got kind of backed up. I'm slowly filling this in. We move thenceforth on to Mongoose Traveler 2nd Edition, of which I have not everything, but quite a lot. Here's Pirates of Draenix, another big slipcase. It's one of the 2 or 3 best published campaigns ever published for role-playing games, in my opinion. We're going to continue to move there. This is a slightly controversial entry right here. This is Traveler 2300, later known as 2300 AD. There is this book as well, which is the Mongoose Traveler 1st Edition adaptation of this completely different setting into Mongoose Traveler 1st Edition. They've relatively recently redone it for Mongoose Traveler 2nd as well. And here's the Cepheus Engine book. This is going to bother people because it's upside down, except it's not upside. This is actually Sword of Cepheus, the fantasy adaptation. It's actually not upside down. It's just that whoever does their print setting doesn't seem to understand how you print spines. And then this loose packet of stuff here are all the maps that come in various Mongoose Traveler 2nd Edition books. Probably will eventually create some kind of box to put those in. And I guess I forgot to mention when we were on it, Cepheus Deluxe and the Cepheus Engine rulebook. This is a little bit confusing. I think the branding surrounding Cepheus is a little confusing because you might assume that Cepheus Deluxe is like a version of Cepheus with a bunch of extra stuff in it, and it kind of is, but it's really tailored to somebody's homebrew game, and it's a little narrower than I think I am interested in using Cepheus Engine for. So, for those who don't know, what Cepheus Engine is an open source version of Traveller based on the open game license material that Mongoose Publishing released alongside Mongoose Traveller First Edition. It is basically a recreation or reimplementation of classic Traveller using the tools provided in Mongoose Traveller First Edition. I think it's got a lot of fans, and there's a tremendous amount of support for it in digital form on DriveThruRPG, and I personally probably like it best as a sort of toolkit. If I wanted to kind of come up with my own customized version of Traveller, Cepheus Engine is what I would use as the basis of that. I'm also going to back up a little bit and have some specific comments about the T4, or Mark Miller's Traveller, as it's sometimes called, a couple of the books. This edition was published by Imperium Games, which only lasted a couple of years. They put out a lot of product in those couple of years, and their quality control, which Mark had nothing to do with, was not great. So there are some cool books here. Starships, for example, is almost completely worthless. You might as well put it next to the water closet. But other stuff like The Adventures, Aliens Archive contains some adventures. That's a pretty good book. Pocket Empires is very interesting. I'm really kind of looking forward to digging into that. Psionic Institutes is absolutely golden. And the Naval Architect's Manual is a whole book of isomorphic ship deck plans. It's really quite neat. Missions of State is another book of adventures, and then there's a couple of additional adventures that they did that are staple bound. Those are pretty good too. One other comment on Traveller: The New Era. They did back in the day a deluxe edition which contains the core book and Fire Fusion and Steel and a couple little extra ding-dongs, and they did a perfect bound book. This actually won an Origins Award for the year it came out. If you do want to pick up Traveller: The New Era, I will give you two pieces of caution. One, three really. Three is it destroys the Traveller universe. It finishes the job of destroying the Traveller universe that was begun by Mega Traveller. Two, it uses a completely different system than any previous edition of Traveller. It is the GDW house system that was the system from Twilight 2000. And the third caveat is the important one. There are two printings of this, one of which says Mark 1 Mod 1 on the title page. This is a Mark 1 Mod 1 book. There was a substantial errata problem in that first printing too. It was corrected. So Mark 1 Mod 1 is basically the second printing with errata incorporated. My Traveller: The New Era rulebook in the deluxe edition here is not Mark 1 Mod 1. Now, on these board games, science fiction board games or war games that GDW did back in the day, I am missing, to the best of my recollection, only two. One of which is Triplanetary, which was redone in the past several years by Steve Jackson Games. They've had the rights to do it forever. And another science fiction, not strictly related to Traveller game, same with Triplanetary, called Asteroid. I actually just picked one up for a pretty good price on eBay. Hopefully that'll show up at some point fairly soon. Now, here's the Horizon Traveller customizable card game. I was all over this when it came out, and I have kind of sat down and tried to play it, and I find it kind of baffling. The rulebook is one of these rulebooks that instead of giving you terms to describe things in the game, it gives you symbols, of which there are an enormous and Byzantine number of symbols. And in my opinion, it makes the rules almost entirely impossible to parse. I have not figured it out. It looks neat. Traveller 2300 is a really interesting science fiction setting. It is not set in the Traveller universe and does not use the Traveller mechanics. Like Traveller: The New Era, it uses the GDW house system that came out of Twilight 2000. By the time GDW had put a couple books out, they had kind of figured out their branding error and rechristened the whole thing 2300 AD. I think that's a little more straightforward way to brand the product because it's really its own thing. It is associated with Traveller only because GDW had it in their heads at one point that it's a science fiction game and we're doing it, so it has to say Traveller so people will know what it is. And I guess one additional observation for collectors. One of the reasons why this guy is still in its original shrink wrap is because these little books are black. they wear horrifically. It is very difficult to find these in really, really great shape. So I have had to make do with whatever condition I can get them in without paying through the absolute nose. The main little black book that I am missing is book 8, Robots, and it goes for about $100 on the secondary market. That's why I don't have it yet.